we heard similar skepticism last hour. So my question to you is, why are the markets rallying then if if kind of everybody in the know is saying don't bet on this happening?
It's a great question. Possibly some of the news that's been coming out over the last couple of days on therapeutics and the progress with the vaccines, headlines related to progress with COVID. I think maybe some investors are relying more on those headlines than they are on the Washington headlines. But I do think it's a mistake for anybody to be buying into the market based on this sense of optimism that had existed on stimulus, because I think it's a misplaced optimism.
Let's talk for a second about what you mentioned and this idea that, there's treatments in the pipeline, the ones the president received, the one approved by Eli Lilly today for emergency use and so forth. That in a way makes stimulus talks less urgent, although the needs for some of these industries, like Kayla was just outlining, are still very great. So, I wonder if we could get in a situation where the urgency is gone, but the need is as great as ever.
So, it's interesting we're using the word stimulus because I think it's a misplaced word. It's not stimulus. It's a bridge. It's a filler for people who have lost jobs through no fault of their own, through no fault of their employers. This is not a market economic event. It's a natural disaster of sorts. And that's where government is supposed to come in and be the shock absorber. This is not stimulus to get the economy going again because it suffered some kind of economic shock. So yes, longer term, the news is good, and down the road, economic activity should recover normally. But in the meantime, people do need a buffer, some kind of floor underneath them. And that's what this is. It's not stimulus as we kind of normally think of it. It's to get people through the next couple of months because, yes, the therapeutics are better. Yes, a vaccine is on the way, but it's not here yet. And it's not going to be here for several more months. So how do you buffer that? How do you put a floor and aid people to get through that time? That's the role of government. That's what should be happening right now.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that's why the term relief, I think, is more apt than the term stimulus here. Yep. So let's talk through the politics of this, which is kind of how it advances or doesn't. Stephanie Miller last hour was making the point that after the president's tweet yesterday that he had told them to stop talks on aid, that people like Lindsey Graham saw their seats suddenly moved into toss-up territory. That vulnerable Republicans are the ones kind of pushing for, hey, we know we do need to get something done here. Is it too late, though? I mean, as Tony Fratto suggested, the timeline here, the Senate's not even back for a couple of weeks. It would suggest it's already done. There's just no time to get it done before the election.
I'm very skeptical there's time to get it done before the election. Going back a couple of weeks ago, when you first, in late August, early September, when we first got the headlines of possible airline furloughs, I thought that would be a catalyst to get the two sides closer together because they were very far apart. When that didn't result in a deal, it signaled to me that the prospects for getting a deal before the election were quite remote. And we've been on a little bit of a roller coaster since then, some days of optimism, some days of pessimism. But all in all, it just seemed to me that the two sides weren't close together. There are certainly, to your point, Kelly, there are certainly some Republicans who are up in this cycle who need a relief package, who need a big bill. And frankly, they would take a smaller bill as well. The flip side is there are Republicans Senate Republicans who are up in 2022. They are looking at their election. They are looking at their primaries, that if they vote for another big government spending package and the White House and Republican voters suddenly find fiscal conservatism all over again, that they are going to feel the brunt, the reaction from Republican voters. So Republicans aren't of one mind. Their interests are not all aligned. Republicans up right now, they want it. Republicans who are not up in this cycle, they're not as enthusiastic for it because they're looking at their political prospects down the road.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.